Hey, I'm Katherine.
And I'm Max.
And we're getting married. Sorry, let's do it again. Hey, I'm Katherine.
And I'm Max.
And we're getting married. Today, we're going to tell the story of how he proposed, and we're also going to be answering some questions that you guys had. Okay, the first question is, tell us the story of your engagement.
This could be a very long story, or it could be a more abbreviated story. We'll probably have to go in between. We had a trip planned basically for a little while to go to Savannah, Georgia. I'm not the type of person that really makes big elaborate plans, so trying to come up with an idea of when to actually propose was probably the hardest part of the whole process. Just trying to figure out something that would actually be a surprise for Katherine that she wouldn't figure out. So using that trip was kind of the starting point, because we had planned that together, I think a couple months before I actually ended up proposing. And so we were trying to plan out different events and stuff for the trip, and I was being a little more nosy about it than normal, I guess. Katherine started to figure out a little bit something was weird.
Yeah, because I'll cut in there, but whenever we've gone on trips in the past, if we went to a friend's wedding or something, then Max is usually very organized, a planner, type A person, whereas I'm usually more go with the flow. But then whenever we travel, for some reason, we kind of switch roles. So I love to plan things out and I love to travel, so we actually switch a lot. So it was funny that on this trip, he kept asking me oh, what are we gonna do? We need to plan out the days. And I was kind of you don't normally do that. So it's just interesting. And that was when I started to kind of wonder
So I had to try to be as discreet as possible with that. We had this sunset cruise planned, and that's probably the first thing you would think of oh, that's the perfect time to propose.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Romantic cruise and everything. And I was no, that would be a total trap. That would be the worst idea, because that's when she would be expecting it. So
I was expecting that at that point. I was I'm gonna wear this dress, and this is what it's gonna be when I get engaged.
Yeah. And so the day before that, we ended up going to Tybee Island,
which is this really cute little beach town. If you've ever seen the last song with Miley Cyrus and Liam Hemsworth, then that's where they shot it. It was in Tybee Island. It's so cute.
I wish I could take credit for knowing that and kind of playing into that, but I had no idea. So
have you even you probably haven't even seen that movie.
No,
it's very much like a girly movie.
Gosh, I don't know. Super early on in us dating, we got on the topic of rings at some point, for I don't even know why, but it was completely random conversation, and I'd asked what type of ring would you want when you eventually got married, and she listed off a bunch of different things, and one of which was that very descriptive, that she wanted a ring that looked like it fell off a mermaid's hand and into the water, and just kind of was pulled up to the shore and just washed along the shore. So that always stuck in the back of my head for whatever reason, probably because it was so descriptive and specific. And so I kind of thought doing it at the beach would be perfect then, because that's, kind of the idea she had in her mind in some respects. So we went to the beach and had a really good time, and it was too crowded when we first went. And so I was I'm not doing this in front of thousands of people. That's just not happening. So we went and got lunch at the sushi place. I was I have to do it after we eat, or else I'm gonna run out of time. We had talked about going back to the beach or going in town, and I was pushing pretty hard to go back to the beach to propose. So.
And that was kind of when I started to have a feeling oh, wait a minute, what? Is this actually happening right now?
We ended up going back to the beach. So at this point I'm on a shot clock basically, because we had parking for the beach, and I didn't realize that we legitimately had 30 minutes left before our parking pass expired, and I could get a ticket. So I'm riding a shot clock here, trying to propose and everything, and we're walking along the beach, and I'm eventually we'll come to a point where there's no people, and I can have a little privacy and I can propose. And we're walking and we're walking and we're walking, and there's just no end in sight. There's just people everywhere. And
so funny. Oh my gosh.
I was just getting so nervous at that point, because I was this is never gonna end. And so note to anyone out there, do not propose at Tybee Island if you're looking for privacy, because it's a poppin' place to be. And
yeah, on like a Thursday. Well, I guess it's Memorial Day weekend, but
yeah, eventually we get to the end of the beach. There's literally nowhere else we can go, and there's still people everywhere. And I'm running out of time. I think I said like something like we should get a picture because we're like all the way over here, and then we can walk back. So I'm just making up stuff at this point, like trying to figure out how to make this work.
What was your panic level on the inside?
Very high. It was like internal screaming. And I just like completely made this up. I was just like, oh, like we will have like a better angle of like the ocean, and so we should go up on the sand dune to take the picture. We walked up the sand dune, and
he was like power walking up. So I was like, okay, here we go. Like I started to feel that it was actually gonna happen.
Like I had hidden the ring in a sunglasses case. So I had like said like, oh, let me get my like sunglasses out or something like that to like kind of
you're like,
have a reason.
I was like taking a picture of us, and he's like, oh, let me try on with my sunglasses. And then I was like, what?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess guys like their sunglasses.
Yeah. So, and then at that point I had said like, hey, when we were at the beach earlier, I found something. Like when we were swimming in the water, I found like something in the water that I thought you would like.
And you were like, it almost like a mermaid dropped it or something.
Yeah, almost like a mermaid dropped it. So that's when I got down and proposed. And I'd planned on saying like a lot more, but I could tell like she just was like completely not there anymore. Like she was in another
my life was flashing
world.
before my eyes is what was happening. I was like, you know, like that feeling when you're doing something and you're like, this is a once in a lifetime experience. Like this is the thing that I've thought about since I was a kid, or just something that you're doing where you're like, you feel the gravity of your life. That's exactly how I felt in that moment. I just like immediately started crying. Well, he said, Katherine and Cimorelli, I think you might have said, you're the love of my life, will you marry me? Or something.
Like
I wrote it in my journal, but I think that was the wording.
I kept it very short.
Yeah.
So.
How did you guys meet, and what was the first date?
So we met on the dating app Bumble. We were gonna get lunch at one place, and then at 2 p.m. it was completely full. So that was a great like starting point.
Wow, Max.
But we ended up getting lunch at a different place and had a good time.
And talked for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And it flew by. What were your first impressions of each other? My first impression of Max, I remember I saw him standing outside the restaurant waiting. Of course, I was late. I'm always late. I just remember thinking and talking to him for the first few minutes, I remember thinking he seemed very quiet and kind of serious and kind of hard to read. This guy is really different than any other guy I've dated. Like something is very different about him.
Whereas I think Katherine was probably the obvious. It was like she was very like warm and personable and like just had like a lot of energy right away, which stood out a lot.
Wow.
I could tell like she was gonna be a lot different than me.
Where is Max from and what does he do?
So I'm from upstate New York originally. Binghamton, New York is where I grew up, and then I went to Syracuse University and lived there for 6 years. So I kind of say I'm from there too, because I feel like I was up there quite a bit. I moved down to Tennessee for work and everything in grad school, and I coach cross country and track at the college level. I've been doing that for over 2 years now.
What did Max think about your family being so big and you being on YouTube? That's a lot of people ask me this because, so if you guys don't know, there's not just me and my sisters, but there's 5 brothers in our family. So we have 11 kids and Max is an only child. So it's very different.
Opposites attract.
Yeah, opposites attract.
I didn't really know like who Katherine was or anything like that until the night before we went on our first date. And it was literally just because I was talking about it with a friend, and I was just like kind of describing like the little bits and details that I actually knew about Katherine. And
did you say like, oh, she's in a band with her sisters or something?
Yeah.
Because I had probably mentioned that.
The friend knew like right away who it was, and I was like, okay. Like I didn't know what I was really getting into, but it wasn't a big deal at all. Like I guess the big family thing was a little different because I'm an only child and stuff.
He knew all my siblings' names in order. I think it was like the 3rd date or something really early. Yeah. And I was shocked. I was like, because I was a little worried, like, okay, I don't know how an only child is going to fit in, because I always thought I'd be with someone who had brothers and sisters, but he was like on it. And I feel like he just like blended right in with like, just, I don't know, learning everyone's names and just being very attentive to wanting to know about my family. What's the dumbest fight you've ever had? I feel like if we've ever argued, it's really been about more serious topics. But then it was like, whenever we talked about it, we always had the same core values on things, and that's what we realized, like really talking through stuff. I don't really know that we have dumb fights or like fights about small things.
I can't really think of anything.
I feel like it's because we're both really easygoing kind of. What did Max think of you saving your first kiss for marriage?
Ooh, man. So I found that out the
Third date.
It was just so early on that it was like, I'm not going to make a big deal about this like 3 dates in. Like, I barely even know this person yet. I guess I was at kind of a point in my life. I'm not looking to just kind of just date for the sake of dating or like, you know, I want to try to find the right person, and I never knew exactly what that was going to look like. I'm also not going to drag this out for like 5 years or something like that. So if I have to wait like a little bit of time, then it's not the end of the world if it's for the right person.
What's your favorite thing about each other? I really just like Max's entire personality. I just love spending time with him and being with him because he's really freaking funny. And I feel like he's more quiet, so not a lot of people get to see his like sizzling roasts.
Roasted.
I'm pretty introverted and can kind of just like to kind of be in my own shell, and Katherine kind of brings me out of that shell a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely am the one that's like, oh, let's go here. Like, this person invited us to this thing. Like, let's try this new thing. Like,
yeah, we're opposite in that I'm very good at saying no, and Catherine's very good at saying yes. It works out really well that like when she needs to like de-stress, like I'm really good at helping her not be stressed out, and then when I need to kind of like do things, then she kind of pulls me out of it to do that. So I like that she kind of brings me out of my worst.
The first time that you said I love you.
Well, I had to ask when this was because I honestly didn't remember the exact.
Yeah, I remember the date. It was February 12th, 2018. And it was really cute. It was like Valentine's Day was on Ash Wednesday that year, which if you're Catholic, you can't really like have chocolate and stuff on Ash Wednesday. So I was like, man, can we celebrate Valentine's Day like a few days early this year? So we did it, and it was on like our 3 month of officially dating, but 4 months since we'd like met anniversary. He gave me this necklace that said faith on it. He's like, I want you to know that I know like your faith is important to you, and I also want you to know like I have faith in you, and I want you to know that you can have faith in me, and that I have faith in us. Like I remember you had this whole like really poetic thing about faith, and then you had said like that you had realized that you like loved me, and I remember I had been feeling that too, but I didn't really know if like it was love because I'd never dated anyone really seriously before. I dated a lot of people, but no one like really serious, whereas he dated a couple people seriously. So I was kind of like trusting him on if the feeling was love or not. So
yeah, and I thought like I had trouble remembering the date because I actually felt that way much sooner than when I actually said it. So that's why
I think we both did a little sooner.
So that's why for me it's like, wow, I can't believe it was that long, and it's because I actually like felt that way much sooner, but I didn't want to just like throw it on her when she's like never dated someone that seriously before.
Yeah, but I was excited. I almost slipped and said it a few times before he even said it. When was the moment you knew you wanted to get married, and how did you know?
See, this is also tricky with the like I love you thing because it's like it's two things. It's one when like I actually felt it, and two when it like I actually started acting on it, because I feel like it was another same thing with the I love you thing was like I felt it much sooner than I actually started acting on it. So I would say about 9 months or so in, I like started feeling that way. But I didn't really act on it until more like a year or so, or a little over a year in, I think.
For me, it was like around 9 months, we kind of had a conversation because Max was kind of dropping some hints about like, I want to like spend my life with you or something. And I was like, does that mean that you like want to get married? And I just one day point blank asked him over lunch, like, do you want to marry me? Because he had like been saying all this stuff, and he just like looked at me kind of like taken aback, but he was like, yeah, I do. I didn't want to like freak you out or anything, so I didn't say anything because I know it's really early. But how do you feel about it? And then I was kind of like, well, I kind of like I feel like I'm almost on the same page as you, but like not sure yet. So I'll let you know when I get there. And then kind of over time we realized like that we were on the same page. And I remember there was a certain point probably when we'd been together for like a year and 4 or 5 months, I don't know when it was, but it was in like the earliest part of this year, like February, March or something. I really like very strongly knew that I wanted to marry him, and I'd been praying about it a lot. They all said, how did you know? So I guess like,
oh, how did I know?
Yeah, that's another part of the question.
You know, once you get to a certain point, you start thinking about it. Obviously, like I'm not going to date someone for years and years and years and not know. Like if I don't know at a certain point, then it's probably not going to work. So I just kept thinking like at our worst moments, we always like got through it and like got closer together. Everyone has moments where it's perfect and things are always happy and fun, and like everybody in love has that, but like I feel like you get to really know somebody at like some of those darkest moments and how you react in those situations.
I always had this sense of peace about him deep down, which I've never had with anyone else that I dated, really. Beyond all the other things of like, oh, he's trustworthy, he's like dependable, he's very loving and like fun to be with, and all kind of all those things that you'd want in someone. But like for me, I'm more of like an intuition type of person, so I think it was more my intuitive knowing about it that was like the driving force, I guess. And then obviously a lot of prayer too, and that was like a huge part of the decision. How are you preparing yourselves for marriage?
How are we? That's a lot of ways. We are doing a lot of things.
We are doing a lot of things.
A lot of things. We have to do marriage prep through our church and everything. So meeting with a husband and wife for a bunch of different classes. We had to meet with our priest. We had to
do a marriage retreat.
We did 2 marriage retreats, one for just like a day, and then the other one was
like for like 3 days over a weekend.
3-day weekend. We've been reading books.
The Catholic Church has a very specific like marriage prep thing that a lot of people really like love, even if they're not that Catholic. We both have been really enjoying it, and like I feel like it is really preparing us because it helps you talk about like basically they just bring up all these topics that you would be facing together, like finances and children and living together and all these things. Like you kind of talk about stuff before you're there, so it helps you prepare, which is really, really helpful. What do you do together when you hang out? Well, we both work full time, so I feel like when we're together, we kind of just want to relax. We definitely watch like movies sometimes or shows. We go out to eat a lot. That's probably our main thing that we do. We cook together sometimes. We have a list of fun things we want to do.
We made a list and then we didn't do like any of them.
We did a couple of them.
We did a couple without even realizing we did them.
Will you be doing a series? And will you post the wedding on YouTube? So a lot of you guys have been asking because Christina did a series for her wedding where she did like episodes. I don't really think I want to do a full series like she did because it was just a lot. I definitely want to share the details with you guys for sure because you guys have been part of this whole journey. So I'd love to like share as much as I can with you guys. So you'll definitely get the details of the wedding for sure. I actually filmed a dress video. So you guys will get to come with me as I try on dresses and see what dress I ended up picking, which is obviously you can't watch that. It's not coming out till after the wedding. And then also, of course, we'll do a wedding video where it'll show our wedding like Christina and Nick had that for their wedding. So you guys definitely won't miss out on the wedding, I promise. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to check out our wedding video when that comes out, and also my dress video when that comes out.
And my suit video, right?
Oh, if you didn't already know, my sisters and I are on Patreon, and we would love if you would join our community there. Patreon is basically a platform where artists can offer special rewards for fans to make memberships every month. And we have all these cool things where you guys can have more access to us. So we have extra videos that we don't post anywhere else, that we post only on our Patreon. We have a magazine called the Cimorelli magazine, where we do little recipes and fashion tips and advice. It's super fun and really cool. And we also have our podcast, which you can check out on the Cimorelli podcast channel, the main podcast, but we have extra episodes of the podcast only available on our Patreon every single month. So it is totally worth it. You should check it out today and become a patron if you want to support your local artist.
Make sure to click subscribe and join the Sim fam.
We are a positive community of people, and if you feel like you don't belong anywhere else, you definitely belong here with us, and we would love to have you in the Sim fam.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.